Today, I'm very happy to say we've got 5 lightning talks on microsites. So it's a kind of quick go round of microsites that are already in the wild and built by different councils. We've got, in no particular order, we've got Ryan on their, I think, their shared fostering service, unless he's launched another one. Zuhayr, apologies if that's the wrong pronunciation, from Walsall on their send local offer. Chris at Rohallion on the Oxford jobs. Michael at Newcastle, they've done 2, North East Community Forest and Grainger Market. Angie from Croydon on their approach, and they, I discovered, have also released a microsite as well, which I just found out about. There'll be time for questions. If you could post questions in the chat, and then I'll sort of gather and we'll do a little bit of asking at the end of the lightning talks, but I'm going to get through each of them. Each lightning talk is 7 minutes. I'm going to be brutal on the timing, speakers. So you got 7 minutes and that's it. So sorry and apologies in advance. And then we'll finish up with Will just giving a sort of product update on microsites. And if we've got time, we'll do a what one thing would you like to see in microsites activity at the end. So without further ado, Will, we decided we would start with Michael. If you're there, Michael. Let's stop sharing.
I am. Hopefully my video and things are working. So, afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so we've got a couple of microsites out in the wild now, and a few more being created behind the scenes. So we got the system installed back in the autumn, I think it probably was, and ran this as a test run with the North East Community Forest. So we have a community forest up here in the northeast that started in 2021. Initially, all of its content was hosted on Newcastle's site, as we're the lead for the 6 councils involved, which never made sense from a content point of view. It's very much a partnership. It's the majority of the space in which we're able to plant trees probably isn't within the city boundaries. For people coming from outside, wanting to get involved, donate, that sort of thing. If you're in Durham, if you're in Gateshead, you're not going to come to the Newcastle City Council website for that information. So it was always our intent that NECF would have its own standalone site. We decided to use microsites for that from a management point of view, because it seemed a good test, and from what we'd seen of the system being demonstrated, it could do what we needed to do. I'm just going to split up and hopefully I can share my screen if I have the option to do that.
You should be able to.
So sorry, I'm losing things in all of my windows, as is usually the way with these things. So is that working? So hopefully you can see the North East Community Forest website. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So tackling the NECF website, we started from the point of view of one of the templates that had been created as an example of what was there for microsites. So I think it was example number 3, which was the parks template. We very much sort of tried to keep relatively simple in terms of what we have. But it's nice, it's clean, it gets across the information that we had before on Newcastle, and we're able to expand it out with the layout builder to go with a multi-column layout. So starting with 1, going to 2, with the call out boxes, which adds a bit of interest to it. And we've just got individual pages hanging off this. At such a point as the publications module comes along, the annual report will be rebuilt in LGD publications. So that's something we're looking forward to. But no, it was very, very simple to put together in terms of what was there. Very easy to build from a content point of view. Easy to build with members of the team from NECF, so they could put forward ideas. We could sit with them, ask what they wanted, how they wanted it to look, and build that in front of them, which made it a lot easier. And yeah, I mean, it's as a site, it's worked very well. We know that particularly the donation side of this site has been very positive for them. We've just got what was a Granicious form hanging off it. It's now we've just got into Netcall for that, but it's working for them. In terms of our second microsite out in the wild, our Grainger market in Newcastle is the historic market. It received Levelling Up Fund money, so as part of that, there was work with an external agency to look at the brand and marketing for the site. So they came up with a look and feel for the site, and we then translated that using the microsite system. So it does look quite a bit different. There were things that had to be done in the back end, which Chris is on the call. I might be able to offer more details of, because we had to hide various page elements to try and get it to look a lot more like the design that the agency had come up with. But from the point of view of the colouring, all of that's there in the back end. We were able to control that from a content point of view and set that relatively easily. All of these are just set module types within the microsite system, which all looks quite clean, quite nice, and was relatively simple to put together, particularly with the sort of individual pages. There's a couple of quirks to microsites, particularly around how images go in, but I think we managed to use those to our advantage. So it was one of the things when you're playing around with microsites that we probably need to feed back was around placing images in text boxes over using the image paragraph type. We discovered that just because of the different default ratios, we could get things looking slightly differently in different places. But it's 90, I'd say 95 to 97% of the way to what a designer came up with and sent us in terms of what it looks like. It's a lot better than what was there before. And this went live just before Christmas, so we're still having a look through it to exactly how it's working. But so far the feedback seems to be good, I think. But again, from a content point of view, coming at this, it was very simple to add everything in. It's as easy as the normal system is when you've got Layout Builder there to put together interesting pages. But yeah, it's also from my perspective, being an admin across these sites, having one login and having them all there in one system makes life a lot easier. We're also in the process at the moment of, I'll stop sharing that, of working on our, I will stop then.
I'll let you finish off that thought in the chat, if that's okay, Michael. Thank you.
That's fine.
That was brilliant. I said I'd be brutal. I'm going to stick to it. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. Questions for Michael in the chat? We can cover them at the end. Zuhayr, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, Zuhayr. How
Okay.
sounds about right. Yep.
All right. You've got.
How's it going, everybody?
I'll give you some reminders in the chat, just so you know. I didn't tell Michael that. I'll do that. All yours.
Yeah, so if I just introduce myself, I'm one of the developers from Walsall Council as part of the web team, and I'm just going to be talking a little bit about our Send microsite that we launched around November last year. So if I share my screen, I prepared a little presentation.
Nice. I'll put the link to your website in as well in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. I believe that's the correct screen. Are we able to see anything?
It said it started. Yes, there you go. I can see that.
Perfect. So yeah, if I run through, so the request for the microsite initially came from an inspection that was carried out by Ofsted and CQC. I think I might have skipped a slide there. Early on in 2022, which highlighted a few weaknesses. One of the areas being that too many parents, carers, and stakeholders weren't aware of the LocalGov offer. And so an external consultation was carried out, and they found that we could probably increase our exposure. And one way we decided we could do that was by having a microsite. Currently, on our main site, we use the concept of subsites, which we referred to as microsites initially, as we're not part of LGD build for our main site. We use a different distribution for that. So this was our first introduction into LGD, and the microsite platform was the one that we chose to go with. So some of the reasons why we chose to go for it was the low cost. So being already having a Drupal site and already having a hosting provider, we understood that the microsite platform would allow us to take control of the code ourselves, and so we only ended up paying for hosting and domains, which was quite good considering we had quite a low budget and a short turnaround time for the project. Other features for us as the developers was how quick we could get it set up, again being a Drupal installation, and it tied into our existing pipelines and processes that we already had, with a central design system evolving around Storybook, and then we were able to extend that and bring that in onto the Drupal microsite platform. When we presented the solution to our content team and the wider team, they were really impressed by the flexible page layouts provided by Microsites. As again, that's not something that we use on our main site, and we stick with fixed templates, and the ability to adjust branding and customize the header and footer. So that was quite good for our content team. So we did end up eventually going for a more customized solution, in the sense that we didn't use the microsite themes that came with LocalGov, but we imported our custom theme from our existing Drupal distribution, as we were struggling to get the components to import into the existing templates, and due to the short time frame, we went for importing the theme instead. We made a few changes to some of the flexible layouts, like adding in an additional 4-column layout, and a few new illustration designs and background patterns that could be customized through the content type itself. So we can have a look at a few of those in the next slides. You can see the before and after here for our main site, where the Send Local offer didn't really stand out. You can see the branding is the same as our Walsall Council main site. And so it's difficult to sort of locate that amongst the tons of information on our site. The design on the right-hand side was carried out by our branding team and members of our design team inside the web team as well. And you can see we went for an approach a design which targeted more towards parents and careers as one of the partners on the project. Yeah, here's a few of the customizations we did. So we did add a few new components in the form of paragraphs, which we added into the LocalGov page content type, which we extended using our own content type. So you can see a few of the background color options and a quote with the image component there. So what we learned through the process was that as a council, we definitely need to improve and work on our criteria for when we should be using microsites, because this was something that was unclear for us. So we couldn't initially decide between whether we want to subsite or microsite, but as we got more experience with the platform, we realized that the microsite was the most suitable due to offering extensive branding options and customization, especially with the flexible layouts. And so, yeah, the flexible layers were a little bit problematic during the content design process. Being the first time that contributors were able to do this resulted in some inconsistencies in design. So, as an improvement for us as a council, we would like to solidify our sort of design system and just make sure we have a style guide going forward. Another one of the improvements we'd like to make and make a lot more use of the LocalGov functionality, which again, with experience as developers, we realized there's a lot of the functionality in there that we could have extended and make use of as well. So we would like to, one of the customizations that we like from the LocalGov distribution is the fact that you can control the styling and branding from within the CMS itself, which we currently can't do with our custom theme. So yeah, that's something we would like to implement as well. And finally, yeah, our vision going forward is to just continue to support our the rest of the business and the service areas with the content. So we're hoping to build a more robust microsite solution with some extended features, which will help us hopefully deliver that solution in a much more quicker and efficient way. Because the default approach for service areas tends to be to go out to a third party to get solutions. So we're hoping to bring a lot of them more back in-house, and yeah, and boost our Microsoft platform as a marketing tool as well, and engage with more visitors to our sites. So yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Oh, wow. Perfect timings. Yeah, well done. Brilliant. That was fascinating. Thank you. And I put links into the website as well, so you can have a look at the outcome. You did share a few page elements that you created. That was great. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. And any questions for Zuhayr and their approach, if you put it in the chat, and I'll cover that at the end. We're going to move on to Chris from Rohallion. And Chris is going to talk about the Oxfordshire jobs microsite. It was quite an early launch, actually. I think it was sort of spring, was it? Spring and
yeah, it's hard to remember at this point, but yeah, it was somewhat earlier last year, and it was a good project for us. We've done a few microsites, but the jobs microsite was by far the most ambitious. And yeah, I'll go and have a chat about it a little bit. I'm okay to share my screen.
yes, go for it.
Okay. Let's see if I can find the right screen. And yes.
And 7 minutes. All yours, Chris.
Okay, so this is the Oxfordshire recruitment website, the jobs website, as I've been speaking about. So this site was part of a kind of a pilot project for OCC, Oxfordshire County Council, and was a pilot about basically kind of like starting their digital presence program. So one of the pain points the client was having was to do with recruitment, hence the need for the website. So they were finding that their old website wasn't really doing what it needed to do. It wasn't attracting good recruits, etc. And there was no kind of dedicated place for people to go and find out information about it as well. And also there was a little bit of inconsistency in how their service areas were promoting themselves, with no real focus on the benefits and values of working for OCC. So that's where we came in. So they put out a proposal for developers, and we pitched in and put our proposal to them. So I guess the reason why we chose microsites is, well, it would be the first of potential one of many microsites. And we've had pain points in the past with, using things like Drupal multi-sites. And this provided us with a little bit more flexibility in the sense that we could, go a bit faster and still make use of kind of common functionality from the Drupal multi-site, and also the benefits of LocalGov. So I'm going to talk about what we did and kind of what work we did for it. So you can see it's a very customized site. So we did a custom theme and one custom module for this site, and that's purely because of how specific the designs were. There wasn't a lot we could reuse from the multi-site kind of installation profile. So we worked with the designers and did a lot of work just to kind of get this to be as flexible for them as they could have it in relation to their designs. And you can see we've got a lot of different components on here. It's very customized towards their designs. And yeah, apart from that, we didn't do a whole lot other than that. We didn't mess with much custom code other than basically paragraphs, a theme, and some kind of helper functions. And yeah, I think that was really it. But it's been a really good project for us because off the back of this, we're now going to be doing more work with Oxfordshire County Council. We've already completed some, and there's going to be potentially more microsites coming in the future. And we've also recently done a little bit of expansion on this work. So you can see on this test site, we've done a kind of something called a sector page expansion for them. So it's basically a lot of other components. And yeah, I think they're getting a lot of value out of it. I've been told that the recruitment is going a lot better now. So it's worked really well for us and for them. Yeah, so what did we learn about the process? Basically, microsites are pretty much super handy for spinning up kind of new sites that are kind of short term or more specific. This actual microsite doesn't have more than one site on it, but we do have other sites, other microsites that have got a lot more to them. As I said, this one will have more in the future. I think that work's still being planned out though. And yeah, the only kind of pain points we had was like just learning how to use microsites. But once we got through that, it was super handy and we kind of got what we needed to at the end of it. I think in the future, what we're going to do is try and make the theme more reusable for microsites. So at this point, you can see that the theme is super customized, and we need to make sure that these components that we've designed and the themes can be reused on other microsites, whilst being able to do things like customize the colors and stuff. Right now, that isn't possible due to how specific the designs were. We worked with a really good designer who handed all these over to us for me to implement, and we'd want to make sure that any kind of customizations were in the spirit of the design. But one of the good things about this was also that the feedback was super positive from the client. I think everyone from the bottom level of the organization all the way up to the top loved it, and yeah, like I said, it's led the ongoing work that we're doing with the client just now. And yeah, I think that is really it in terms of what I can speak to you about. I've been asked to plug our case study that I'll put in the chat for you after this. And yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to speak about it at some point. But yeah, I think that's really me. I'll just stop sharing.
Name of mute. Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. That's great. That site looks fab. Looks like it's quite an interesting challenge to implement that design as well. Nice one.
Yeah, no worries.
There is a question. I'll come back to that. Mark's put a question in the chat. We'll come back to that after the last two. So I think we'll move on to Ryan, if you're there, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello. Do you want to share screen? Or are you going to chat through? Up to you. Okay, a couple of good technical questions for Chris. I'll put those in. So I'm just trying to keep track of questions. Come back to that. Okay, Ryan, 7 minutes.
Okay. Trying to share my camera as well. I'm not sure what's going on. It won't come off, but I'll just start if it comes up. That's good. So hi everyone. I'm Ryan Falcon-Hay. I'm one of the website managers at Hammersmith and Fulham Council, and I'm the council's lead for LocalGov Drupal. Today I'll be talking about the first microsite that we built, which you can see on screen. Is for fostering shared services. So in Hammersmith and Fulham, the fostering service is a shared service with Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster councils. It's been like this since the three councils were notoriously known as the Tri-Borough, and it's one of the few remaining services that's still shared between the councils. So the previous site was a microsite that had been developed by Kensington and Chelsea on their Drupal multi-site platform. That site didn't really reflect the branding for the service, and the content was outdated and not really engaging. So it was more of a hindrance than a tool for generating inquiries and driving recruitment. So in the build up to a new campaign, which was being launched at the end of September between a host of councils across the country, you might have seen it, called Any of Us, the fostering service wanted to redo their website, and because the comms aspect, I think, or maybe the recruitment aspect, I'm not really sure, was coming over to H&F, it kind of gave us the opportunity to get in there and say, well, we can help you to rebuild this site. There's this new platform that we want to try out. You guys would be a good fit for this. And they were up for it from the beginning. So we knew that we had a deadline of September 26th last year to launch the site because of the campaign. And yeah, I mean, just to touch on why we decided to pick microsites. Obviously, yeah, H&F is an LGD council, and although we weren't involved in the microsites working group, we did have a keen interest in its development and readiness to launch smaller websites. In the past, we've often used WordPress to create microsites, but we wanted to move away from that. One, to make it easier for the web team to manage multiple sites, but also to reuse the functionality that we were developing on our main council website and ultimately, yeah, reduce our spend on that type of thing. But also we were starting to get more requests for microsites as well. Children's safeguarding, adult safeguarding, weddings, civic campus, you name it, it was all starting to come out of the woodwork. So again, because we're a small in-house web team, there's only 3 of us in the team, just being able to use a familiar system to manage all of these sites was definitely on our mind. And then again, just reduce our spend externally on having all these individual sites that we didn't have oversight over as well. So in terms of developing this site, we have developed a custom theme, and Justine and Rupert, who are on this call from Chicken Digital, helped us with that. As you can see, the branding for the fostering site is orange, which from an accessibility point of view is not the easiest color to work with. Obviously, technically black should be the font color that works with orange, but because of the specific branding around fostering shared services, they do use white on like their social media assets, posters, and all the rest of it. So it did mean that in terms of getting the contrast right, we did have to set the font size and a few of the other things to be like the right level to pass the accessibility checks. And that was one of the good things about using microsites, because it can accommodate for that. Like, you do have control as a content designer over the colors you use and the font sizes, but there were some places where Justine and Rupert needed to intervene just to be sure that the text was large enough for the orange. And yeah, I mean, they used the power of Drupal's theming system to ensure that we wouldn't have to do this again for other microsites. So in terms of the sites I'm building now, quite a lot of the other teams in the council do like the fostering theme. So I'm using that as a base to develop like their test sites. And then just making tweaks here and there. So for example, you can see on the fostering theme, in the top right hand corner, we've got the 3 logos for the 3 different councils. This is just a background image, but having that up there did mean we had to move the main navigation menu down. But again, that's one of the things that people really like, just having it front and center. Obviously, the background color can make it stand out even more. So that's one of the things you will see with the other microsites that we're building. Some of the other things we've done, just trying to remember. I mean, we brought some of our functionality over from the main website. So, for example, if I go to carers, if I go to Mary, so being able to have circulate images was not so much a crucial thing, but something we thought to make the site look a bit different to what the team already had. And this is something we've implemented on the image component on our main website as well. So it's just a tick box that says, is this photo of a person? You tick it and it makes it circular. We've implemented Google Analytics as well. So that's something we can put across all of the sites. And also CookieBot as well. We do still need to do the overload on the videos. Oh, time's out. Okay.
Sorry, Ryan.
But yeah, I mean, if I could just finish up on one thing, I know in terms of just using it, in the beginning it was a bit tricky, but yeah, we figured it all out in the end. And there's a lot more improvements we do want to make, which I'm sure we'll get covered in the rules section as well.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, let's cover it there. Thanks so much, Ryan. That was brilliant. Angie.
Hi all. Just giving me up.
Are you doing a share screen as well?
I can share a screen if I can find my controls. Of course I can. Just bear with me one moment. Share screen. I believe this is the screen. Let me know when you can see it, please.
I can see it. Yeah. Okay, Angie, 7 minutes.
Excellent. So, right. So like I'm Angie Forson, I'm from Croydon, and like other local authorities, we've got loads of external sites that have been microsites that have been commissioned by services, externally hosted and supposedly maintained by those people that have built it. However, what we found, that's not the case. And we have in the past had problems with security breaches due to the lack of maintenance on the sites, non-compliance with GDPR and accessibility. So we were kind of forced to do something, especially around our safeguarding children's partnerships site that experienced one of these issues. So our previous site was built on WordPress. And the problem with WordPress is that it's got a lot of plugins, etc., etc. And if you've got no one maintaining it, you've got loops and holes for all sorts of things to happen. So we were charged to turn this around very quickly. There was an issue of contracts coming up for expiry. So we had to basically do something really quickly. So when we got hold of LocalGov Drupal, it was the thing. Microsites, that's what we needed to do. We've already got LocalGov Drupal running on our main CMS, corporate CMS. We use LocalGov Drupal forms. So using LocalGov Drupal microsites was just the best way to go for us. It was something that we kind of knew how LGD works. It wasn't going to be a new learning experience of new themes and things, and it was something that my content designers would have been able to get their heads around pretty quickly. So as I said, we kind of stuck to the out the box thing You know, we open the box and it's got good features in there, and we try to stick as much as possible to it. We did have to do a little bit of changes and some dev work. We put a right hand nav in the news area here to sign up. We've got a bit of a in this section thing going on here that just allows people to do a bit of a jump around very quickly. But as I said, we did try to stick very closely to what we had, simply because of the time scales we were against. What did we learn from this process? Unpack the box properly. You know, we kind of dived in as again, because of the time we had to dive in. So it felt like we were under so much pressure. We didn't have enough time to really understand what we had in our hands. We didn't have that manual to kind of flick through, and we didn't have the time to explore. So yeah, that's one of our learnings. Make sure you unpack the product carefully and just keep pushing back on time where you can. Unfortunately, this one we didn't. So our vision for microsites is really to ensure that whatever's being created out there is evidence-based. You know, we get lots and lots of requests for microsites, and we're getting lots more, but it's like, really, why do you need a microsite? Why can't we provide that information online? And we've got kind of a proposition approach where, you know, what is it? Is it that it needs separate branding? Is it a separate URL? Is it a partnership work? Whereas it can't sit on the corporate site, and it needs to be very much a standalone thing. So, you know, we're going through that, but our vision is to ensure that it's accessible and maintained to a good standard. We've got some way to go with the maintenance side of it, because in building these sites, we are handing them back to the services to say, these are now yours. And you need to take control of it, because we don't have a huge team. But we've also learnt that there is additional service education needs out there of what a good microsite is about. I've recently seen some things that have appeared on the site, and I just really waiting for meetings to say, look, let's do a regular check on these sites. Again, it can only be a check because of resourcing. Our approach to building microsites, as I said, is on a needs by needs basis. Do you really need this site? Why? What is does it need to be separate branding? But what we want to do is create what we've done is created a starter template. It's very much Croydon branded at the present moment, but it could, you know, you can change the colours and things quite easily. But we also want to have a few more customizable templates where they are sitting slightly different from the council. So we want to get those in place. We want to make sure that we have about 3 or 4 templates that we can demo to services and saying, look, this is what we can offer. But what we don't want to do is become a design studio. We need to just stay within what resources we've got. So if we can get some templates up there and offer the templates, we can make small changes to them. But that's kind of our approach going forward. That's me.
Fab, brilliant. Thank you, Angie. A nice, tantalising look at your future as well. Brilliant. Look forward to seeing that. It sounds like that approach, that templated approach, is something that quite a few people are looking at. Yeah, brilliant. Would you be able to stop sharing? And then I will invite Will. In a minute, we'll be just taking you through like from the product angle and the future. There are a few questions. Some have been answered in the chat already. There's a question for Ryan. What accessibility checks and tools were used to validate your site?
I'm trying to
yeah. Oh yeah, so yeah, we used Wave as the main tool, and then also Arc as well, and Axe. I mean, the site doesn't really have it doesn't really have much. So obviously out of the box, it is quite accessible, and it was mostly just the colors we had to check, I believe. It doesn't have any documents. So yeah, it was pretty much accessible from the get-go.
Cool, thank you. Question for Angie, I think it's from Will. Can you share the in this section feature that you developed?
Share it as a send it up. Or...
Send it upstream, Will? Is that
Yep,
what your question is? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We will.
Cool. Okay. And Lizzie had a question about proposition statements. Is anyone happy to share any proposition statements for microsites or main websites? I think, Finn, you shared a link to the sort of overall microsites proposition, which is on the LocalGov Drupal website, or the doc. Is it the doc site or the website?
It's on the doc site.
It's on the doc site, yes. Okay. Is that what you meant, Lizzie? Yeah.
No, I think that originally came from work at Croydon anyway, that I think Angie is referencing there. I think it in the early days of the discovery process around microsites, that was one of the first kind of bits of work. You know, do we really need a microsite? Let's talk about the content, what it's for, and you know, does it need branding or the rest of it? And if possible, try and bring content to the main site where that's logical. But really understand that, yeah, the drivers behind having a microsite.
Nice one, thank you. I think there was a custom paragraph question for Oxfordshire and how to pull in the jobs feed. I think both of those are answered in the chat, so I'm not going to go over that. Thanks, Chris, for answering those. So, Will, do you want to take us through just what's happened? And I guess it's more like what's coming up and things in the pipeline for microsites.
I'm gonna do this quite quickly because I think it would be good. I would like more chat about it rather than me just talking at you. So I would say, I mean, there were lots of achievements last year. I think the biggest were we turned from alpha to beta, which means it really unlocked the use of microsites, and lots of sites have sprung up as a result, which is why we built microsites in the first place. It was a real pain point for everybody. So I wouldn't pull out any specific achievements last year. I think it was getting using it being used. In terms of the next steps, there's quite a lot we could do, but we're really interested in your view. So the big thing that's sort of in progress right now is a bit of re-architecting that Finn might be able to explain a bit better than me. I mean, obviously the underlying technology for microsites is we're using something that's used in the Drupal world a lot, and that's changing how it does sort of groups and permissions, and we want to keep pace with that. I don't know if you want to say anything particularly, Finn, about that work.
Eeks is doing the bulk of the work, and it's mostly done. The bunch are just kind of testing it now, and hopefully putting together a bit of a microsites working group to help with the testing, or specifically help with the testing of upgrades. So you've got sites out there in the wild. We're kind of shifting a few of the dependency modules around, like you say, to kind of keep track of the technology and the community. And yeah, we need to make sure that the sort of upgrade process is painless. So we'll probably be getting in touch with a few of those sites that we've seen today, a few of you to help test that and make sure that we don't break anything. But essentially, yes, the functionality should be the same, if not a little bit better, and make it a little bit easier to kind of distinguish between your kind of roles when you're looking in, either as a controller or as a website manager, content designer.
Thanks, Finn.
Happy to take more questions for you if you want to.
Yeah. Thank you. From that point, we're sort of throwing it open to you. So with the main LocalGov Drupal product, what we spent a lot of last year doing was squashing a few bugs. There weren't many, but we're always on the lookout for things that don't quite work. So if there's anything that you have seen in microsites, you're thinking, well, why the hell did it do that? It's not what I was expecting, or it just doesn't work at all, please let us know. We also spent a lot of last year on the main product doing quality of life improvements, you know, just It's relabeling things that are not clear. It's moving things around so that they are more clear. It's just generally, now these things are in use, it's really understanding how you will use them and tightening things up so they're easy to use. I think this work will continue forever. We're always interested in quality of life stuff for everybody. But if there's anything specifically on microsites you're thinking, again, why does it do that? Why I'm having to click all these buttons to do a very simple thing? Or I don't know what these things are called, then please do shout out. Just drop me a line, or stick something in general with my name on it, and I will pick that up. From that point, there's potentially lots of things that we can do. We've got lots of ideas for how we take microsites forward. There's no commitments against any of this yet, but I'm interested in talking to everybody about what they want to see. I think one thing that we have got to show you is a piece of work that Mark at Anatech did, and that's the first post-it live previews of design tweaks. So if you're a heavy WordPress user, I don't know what people think about WordPress, boo hiss, you'll know that there's a sort of theme panel in which you can change fonts, change colors and everything, and see the practical effects of those changes. What Mark's done is something that I think is perhaps a little bit better than that. And if you click through that, you'll see a video of it running with a couple of, it doesn't do everything you'd want to change, but it just illustrates how designs might change. And I think it'll be easier for us to design when we can see the effects of our changes. So I'd quite like to do a lot more work on that. I think it will make a big difference to the experience. I know there's a card out there for Google Tag Manager, which we need to get to, but I'm interested in the conversation. I'll post it in the chat about what analytics are you actually using. So from the Essex experience where I work, GA obviously is used, but it seemed to be a bit heavy-handed for services. There's just a bit too much in there. So Essex also uses Fathom. So I'm interested in alternatives, and what can we explore there? Somebody mentioned missing content formats. The other content formats that exist in LGD, but they don't exist in microsites. I'm really interested in what we might bring over next. It was always the intention to ship with sort of 4 or 5 multi-purpose things and then think about what we might do after that. So please let us know if there's something you think really should be there that's not. The long tail is into things like theme library. How do we reuse themes across the board? How do you have maybe a master theme that you could use or clone or reuse? Again, in Essex, we're thinking that we might well have a sort of Essex-based theme that looks like essex.gov. We're working on something else that's a bit more fancy for sort of more emotional, sort of nudge type stuff that we think might be a second theme. We've thought about maybe is there a youth theme, or what are the other themes that we might want to use? And the ability to fire up a microsite and pick one of those as a base, we think is really important. Equally, the ability to share themes across the council. So if you've seen something that you like from somewhere else, how do they give it to you? How do we share these things together? We're really interested in those conversations. I think they're both dependent on a bit more funding or us massively prioritising microsites over the main product because they're quite big. But we're happy to have a chat about it, see what people think. Or more people sign up and pay subscriptions. We've got a lot of very healthy subscription growth. If we saw more, we'd be able to do more of this. So please nudge friends in other councils that don't subscribe. It would allow us to do a lot more here. And then on to the thing that would make microsites better. Maybe back to you, Aaron.
I'm not muted. Yeah, so I realised that not everyone on the call has built a microsite, in council or as a supplier necessarily. If you have, grab a sticky, and we'll just take a couple of minutes just to share like one thing that would make the microsites platform better. Just see if anything has been surfaced through the talks today, or in your experience of building microsites. So grab a sticky, any color, doesn't matter. While people are doing that, there was a question that I missed. It's on the Miro board. There's a question for you, Michael. What tweaks were made for Grainger Market? If you are there. Yes.
I think that was from me just making a mental note to myself, because Michael mentioned they've done a lot of custom work, but in fact a lot of people have. So I think we'll follow up with each of you and just say, tell us about what you did. Just 20-minute conversation. I think that would be really useful.
Cool. Is there anything stand out you want to mention, Michael, while people are
No,
right?
it's fine. I'll pull together some details and I'll share that on the Slack or send it around for anybody's interested.
Lovely. Okay, brilliant. Will, you're in control, so if you zoom into stickies that are being written, we can just sort of share.
Oh, okay. You can share if you want to, because I'm writing something over here, so I stop sharing.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That is totally fine. Yeah. Okay, let's come back in the same way. Check the chat. Lizzie saying goodbye, bye Lizzie, and Ryan saying plausible as one alternative. Yeah, there's a few come up, and Matamo as well. Yeah. Okay. Willie. Videos.
It's just if on the things that I've said in the next steps, if you're particularly enamored with it, go and put a thumbs up on it as a bit of a mini voting thing. If you think any of these things you really want, be particularly interested in.
Okay, thumbs up on missing content format.
Yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer.
And like get a sense of what's most important. Although we're not going to base it just on this.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few here. Ability to move a site between environments. Like from staging to live, like content. Is it content staging or code, or what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think we'll, in the backlog meeting the other day, with that workspace module might be the answer to that. I know it's still experimental now, but I think on the main sites and microsites, that could be something we use for that.
The entity share module as well, Ryan, might do that, because that's not just for sharing nodes as in pages. It also does taxonomy terms and media, and I don't see why it wouldn't do groups as well, which is what a microsite is. It would need a fair bit of testing, but it could potentially be worth investigating while we're waiting on workspaces to become more stable.
Nice, brilliant. Documentation. I know this is sort of one of those things that Finn hasn't and others haven't been able to get to in year one. And I guess that is a call to, especially for those developers or people in content design who've done microsites, if you're able to contribute a little bit of info to the documentation, to the docs editor page, add a little bit more, that would be massively appreciated. Finn, I don't know if you want to say anything else on that.
No, the contributions great. Yeah. Always more documentation, or if there's specific pieces of documentation that people think are missing, then create an issue in the doc site, flagging that up. Cool. I mean, basically, the microsite's whole problem space and sort of what we're doing here is quite complicated. So there are a lot of concepts that you need to kind of get your head around as developers, as well as kind of content or site managers and site owners. And I think the starter points in the doc site does a good job of explaining a lot of that. So reading that as a starting point, but I do think that there's space for a few more like video screen shares, the kind of thing that Mark, you've done very well in the past. So if a few of us can start to put together some more sort of intro to microsites fundamentals, sort of learning series, I think that'd be really good.
Mm-hmm. Nice, yeah, good idea.
I think also documentation's a bit of a team sport. So that Finn and the technical community have really borne the brunt of this, and they've done the most of it. And I think the more disciplines that chip in, myself included, I think there's more we can all be doing as a community to do this. And the stuff that's shared in like the content group, it's like, here's how we do a particular thing, or here's our proposition, or those sorts of things. They're valid documentation. Like what's the process for doing this is as valid as how it works, how it's built. So if anyone's got anything like that, please do chip in.
Will, could I jump in there? I was going to say something
Yep.
similar, but it's more that like open source is a team sport, not just documentation.
Okay.
Very few agencies or developers have worked on microsites besides the people who were initially got contracted to build it. So it would be great to see more. Like I see a lot of people put in issues that we'd like to be able to do this better and that better. You probably all have contracted a development agency or work for a development agency and are building these things. So, you know, figure these out yourselves and start contributing back to the project so we can all benefit from it.
Yeah,
totally. There's a couple of things in here that I know have come up quite a lot. So better image handling, and also making it easier to add pages to menus, and site maps. That's a sort of recurring, some of these things I've seen definitely on Slack a few times, recurring questions, and are probably already issues in the backlog.
I'd really like to understand, you know, what the needs around image handling are, because it does come up a lot, and also on LocalGov Drupal as well. So, you know, what is, if you find a thing that you're trying to do that it won't let you do, then please do say that's the kind of thing that will really help.
Oh yeah,
classic one is subsites. The image, the kind of letterbox. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say, because yeah, with the subsites I've been building this week, I didn't see it on the fostering site, but with like the safeguarding site I've been building this week. Obviously, yeah, I'm trying to put in like portrait site style images, but it's cutting it off, like it's just cropping to like a rectangle, like a 3x2. Like that's, yeah, I don't know if that's what everyone else, if that's the main thing that everyone else is experiencing. But that was one of the things. And then also like smaller images just being blown up in size as well. So we do need to get some more image styles in there so that everything, different types of images can work.
Drop me a note about that, would you? If you've got any URLs where you're trying to do it, that would be really useful.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks, Ryan.
It is 3 o'clock, so I think we'll wrap up and just say a big thank you to Chris, Angie, Ryan, Michael, and Zuhayr for all their live talks. They were brilliant. Thank you. And amazingly, you were pretty much like bang on 7 minutes every time. That is someone who frequently goes over, as you can see. Big respect. Thank you so much for sharing and taking the time. Thanks everyone for coming. Next month, Sustainable Web. Luma will email you with the feedback. Please do fill it in and just let us know honestly how this session was. Was it useful? Was it not useful? And hopefully see you at an event soon. Thanks. Let's start recording.